Hello, 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 and welcome back to Spin Cycle Live. I'm your host, Nathan Hale. Today, we have so much to talk about. Canadian elections are happening today, folks. If you are a Canadian, I know some of you out there watching this show right now are. Get out there, go and vote if you haven't done so already. Vote Conservative. Every single vote matters in this election. Get your local representatives elected into Parliament. We want to see a majority conservative government going into the rest of the year. But we will be talking about those very first. We have new announcements from Elon Musk. We have a possible deal being worked out with Russia and Ukraine, as well as a list of some of the promises made and kept by the Trump administration in this current term. But before we get started, tell me how you're doing. I hope you're all doing very good out there. I know I'm doing pretty okay, hanging in there with it all. It's a lot happening right now in the world, but we're sticking through it one day at a time. Just a reminder, all of our shows, if you missed this one or you couldn't make it, they're being rebroadcasted Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're live Monday and Wednesday, rebroadcast Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, but we're live 5 p.m. Eastern for our Monday and Wednesday show. So it's kind of breaking up a little bit in case you'd rather be watching on a different day. I know that we kind of a day out of date, but all this stuff still is relevant. So if you're watching this on Tuesday, you will know how the elections resulted. And on Wednesday, we will be talking about how it actually plays out. It should be interesting regardless of what ends up happening. It'll be an interesting election regardless. We'll see how these different areas vote, who they vote for, and how it ends up playing out. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So I don't think I've shown this before on the show, but if you're not familiar with Kalshi, I think that's how you pronounce it, Kalshi. It is essentially a betting platform that they have bets going on for like everything that you could possibly imagine. So elections, I think there might be some sporting events on there, other things that are happening in the world. There's a whole bunch of different things on there that you can bet on this site. I know I'm pretty sure there's other ones out there as well, but I like this one a lot. But what's interesting about it is it shows where people are actually putting their money, where they're putting their money where their mouth is and saying, hey, this is what I actually believe this is going to happen. I'm putting aside how I might feel personally inside about the matter. This is how I think it's going to end up. And anyone, I believe, worldwide can vote for this. I mean, I have the option to vote if I want to as an American citizen in the Canadian elections if I want to, right? So I just want to take a look at this. So right now, Mark Carney, according to the betting markets, has an 81% chance of becoming the next prime minister. And what that means is that not only is Mark Carney winning his seat in Parliament, but also the Liberal Party as a whole is getting majority, or at least a plurality in the Canadian elections and forming a majority government. So could be with the NDP party, for example, but it's everything is pointing to the Liberals having an outright majority in the government. Right now, Pierre Poilievre only has a 19% chance in the Conservative Party of winning a majority in the Canadian Parliament. And you can see that this has actually gone up since I first pulled up the site. The total volume is $4.5 million. So there's a lot of money riding on this right now. So you can go and put in whatever you'd like and probably win a little bit of money. I'd say, don't take my advice or anything. There could be a shakeup at the last second in the actual elections, but I'm just saying, for example, you could put in $10 right now and you get $3 back to you. You get 13 or 247 probably after tax or whatever. So you can go see in there exactly what you'd win right now. So if you want to make some quick money, it's not that much, but put $10 in, make $3, go get yourself a coffee, right? So but yeah, it's interesting to see, but you can see that all the way back in January, the Conservatives had a 93.2% chance of winning, and the Liberals 6.3%, and that has totally just crisscrossed to now, we're at 81-20, right? The Liberals are not as high, they're not as certain as the Conservatives were, but the Conservatives had essentially the election was over way back in January, and then Donald Trump came in office, and the liberals started playing really dirty with the way that they were running their campaigns and really got their messaging out there and scared Canadians about the possibility of Trump taking over Canada. Oh my God, and the tariffs. Oh my God, right? So it's interesting to see. So that paired with just the overall polling numbers. Now the polling numbers are a bit more favorable. So this is a bit scary to see, but this is just who will be the next prime minister after the election. This is just certainty of that. But the polls show, the Liberals winning about 42% of the vote and the Conservatives winning about 39%. So not that much of a difference. So it might not be as big of a defeat as we think it's going to be, but I'm fairly certain at this point, my money would be on the Liberals winning the majority in Parliament and maintaining their control of the Canadian government. That's just me. That's just my perspective looking at how this has gone and seeing that the Conservatives have not been positive in the polls since March 19th. So, and we can even expand this out a little bit more, but you can see here that the Conservatives started going downhill way back at the end of January. And even before that, I mean, the Conservatives were dominating the polls since, about September of 2022 and so on. They had always stayed above the Liberals, and the Liberal Party crashed all the way down to 20% of the vote share, according to the overall polling. And that's, I mean, you can see all the sources they're pulling from this, and all the different sources are citing right around the same results. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's possible that the Conservatives will pull something off. I mean, you can see here that according to the probability of winning, the Conservatives were at a 97% chance of winning all the way back in October 2023, and that stayed the same. They were at, in September 2024, 99% chance of winning, 99%, right? And then February 17th, 23rd, March 5th, they just dropped all the way down. And since the beginning of April, 2%, 1%, 9%, and now they're at 11%. And an 89% chance of winning for the Liberals. So it's just it's interesting to see. This is kind of imminent defeat right now, and honestly, here's the deal, folks. Canada has no one to blame other than the Conservative Party for running an awful election, and frankly, Donald Trump to an extent. But the Conservatives ran an awful election this time around. They really did. Pierre Poilievre was not in the media at all. He should have followed the exact same methods that Donald Trump did and gone on the podcast networks. He should have been out there in the media, left, right, and center, defending his ideals and really pushing this messaging. This feels like, to me, what this really feels like is like the revenge of the boomers. Like it feels like the boomers are coming out in droves because they're so anti-Trump that they're coming out. They're like, I'm voting for the Liberals just because I don't like Trump, and that's who the Liberals don't like. And because the Canadians are so obsessed with this, folks, they're so obsessed with our American politics. Hatred of someone like Donald Trump triumphs any other policy that a Canadian politician could push right now, at least as far as the 2025 election is concerned. So we'll see how it goes. I'll be following all of this tonight, but I suspect it will be a swift victory for the Liberals because the Conservatives could not pull their act together and run a solid campaign. And I feel like that was also partly due to they were doing so well for so long. They didn't feel like they needed to do a whole lot of campaigning. They didn't feel like they needed to have a super strong campaign, but they didn't anticipate the Mark Carney switcheroo, right? That's what we're seeing in politics today is that, hey, let's ride out the storm as long as we can. And then at the last second, let's switcheroo who our front runner is. And then we'll get right back up in the polls, right? We saw it in America. We're seeing it now in Canada. And I'm sure we'll see the same things in other parts of the world as time goes on. But we have to start to come to a consensus that, hey, if a party is going to switch out a candidate at the last second, they've got something to hide. And no matter what they say, I guarantee you, they stand with the ideals of the very last person who came in, right? Do not get this wrong. Mark Carney is nothing more than Justin Trudeau in a sheep's outfit. So that's all I got to say about the Canadian elections. Keep an eye on those. We'll be talking about them on Wednesday. But let's go ahead and move on to our next story today, which centers around Elon Musk becoming a mega donor for the GOP. So this is from Reuters. Musk lays out groundwork for big donor role in midterm elections as time with DOGE ends. As billionaire Elon Musk scales back work for U.S. President Donald Trump, he's laying the groundwork for a major role as a Republican political megadonor in next year's midterm elections. According to 4 people with direct knowledge of the matter, after announcing last week that his cost-cutting role at the White House was mainly done, Musk views his money and his social media platform X as potentially more powerful, as a more powerful political tools than his time inside the government when he became the face of Trump's shakeup of the federal bureaucracy, one of the people said. The people said they expect Musk, the world's richest person, to remain influential within Trump as a political advisor while investing in Republican candidates in the next year's midterms. Quote, how Elon exits matters, said a second person with direct knowledge of the discussions. Quote, the priority is keeping him close without turning a major ally into a liability heading into 2026. After overseeing job cuts at nearly every federal agency while leading the Department of Government Efficiency, Musk told investors last week that he would reduce his time with DOGE to a day or 2 a week from May. As a special government employee, he can only serve for 130 days, a period that will expire at the end of May. Quote, I think he's exhausted and exasperated, especially with the attacks on his company, said a third person who has knowledge of Musk's efforts at DOGE. By, quote, stepping back, you make yourself less of a target. That could all totally be true. I think it's great that we got Elon on our side, like for real, right? I think that that's something that certainly was not on my bingo card to ever happen. But I think it's great. We need more big, outspoken people that are helping to fund our movement with the GOP, right? I mean, the left has nothing but Soros-backed politicians. They have huge mega donors. I mean, the richest people in the United States all vote Democrat. They all do. And they all get humongous donations from all of them, right? Especially out in California. And what does the Republican Party have? Not that much. Not that much when it really comes down to it. So there are big donors, but not big like Elon Musk is. Not funding an all-out push for GOP ideals, right? And we can differ, we can disagree on, if the Republican Party right now is what we want it to be in a party. But like it or not, I would rather have conservative politicians in power than liberal politicians when it comes down to all of it. And with someone like Trump in office, we need as many allies as we can get. And if they're willing to pass at least a fraction of the amount of legislation that needs to be passed, that's way more than the Democrats would. Because mark my words, Democrats, if they get any sort of power in office, they will not pass a single controversial bill that goes through. And they will load it up with pork. They will make sure that their policies make it through. And the spending cuts that we have been asking for will certainly not get through. So I'm telling you right now, if you are at all on the fence about voting in 2026, you need to go on and vote. You need to go do it. But keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on this, because this is going to be a big deal going forward with how Republicans handle things, with how they handle running their elections and how they handle pushing forward policy. So like I said before, if Republicans do not have a winning campaign to run on in 2026, they're going to get screwed no matter how much money is being put in. And we'll talk about that more towards the end of the show, because I have the last story will kind of touch on that a little bit more. I want to move on to Russia-Ukraine. Now, we haven't talked a whole lot about Russia-Ukraine on this show, simply because I don't care all that much. I'll be honest with you, I really don't. This war has been happening for years, and every single time we've gotten anywhere near an agreement that seems like, hey, things might be ending, they haven't, and it's continuing to go on. But now it seems like we might finally be coming to a conclusion, or I could be totally wrong, right? Use your own judgment for that. But this comes from BBC. So, critical week for U.S. futures in Ukraine-Russia war, Rubio says. This week will be very critical for Russia-Ukraine war talks as Washington decides if it is an endeavor that we want to continue to be involved in, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said. Rubio told U.S. media that Donald Trump hasn't imposed new penalties on Russia because he still hopes diplomacy can end the war. It comes after Trump held a brief meeting with Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky at the Vatican before Pope Francis's funeral on Saturday. Updating reporters on Sunday, Trump said that he believes Zelensky is willing to give up Crimea to Russia as part of a peace deal, despite Kyiv's previous rejections of any such proposal. Speaking NBC's Meet the Press program, Rubio said, quote, there are reasons to be optimistic, but there are reasons to be realistic. Quote, we're close, but we're not close enough. Throughout this process, it's about determining, do both sides really want peace, and how close are they, or how far apart are they after 90 days of effort here? That's why we're trying to determine, that's what we're trying to determine this week. So I think this is interesting. I want to push forward a little bit and talk about this next story and then kind of discuss this as a whole, because I feel like this other story kind of ties in and kind of fills in the gaps of where BBC left out. This is from Daily Wire. So Trump lays out his demands for Putin, stop shooting, sit down, and sign a deal. President Donald Trump told reporters on Sunday that he had 3 requirements for Russian President Vladimir Putin, all of which he expected to be met in order to stop the bloodshed and end the war between Russia and Ukraine. Quote, we had a good meeting. It was a nice meeting. It was a beautiful meeting, I tell you. It was the nicest office I've ever seen, Trump said. It was a beautiful scene. He wants to do something good for his country. He thinks he's doing a good job. He's working hard. We'll see what happens. Trump went on to say that Zelensky had told him that, quote, he needs more weapons, but he's been saying that for 3 years. He needs more weapons, and we're going to see what happens with respect to Russia, because Russia, I've been surprised and disappointed that they did the bombing of those places after discussions. The follow-up question moved on to Trump's plans with regards to Russia, and a reporter asked him, what do you want Vladimir Putin to do? Quote, well, I want him to stop shooting, sit down, and sign a deal. We have the confines of a deal, I believe, Trump replied, and I want him to sign it and be done with it and just go back to life. So Trump really said, Vlad, I thought we were pals, Vlad. What's going on? Sign a deal with me, Vlad. Vlad, what's going on? Right? And I think this is great. If there's any president that's going to end the war in Ukraine, it is President Trump. He is the president that ended wars, not started them, right? So I firmly stand by him with that. I firmly stand by the fact that I feel extremely safe under President Trump. I mean, there is nothing that could sell me more on the fact that I feel safe under Trump than the way that he handled the Middle East and North Korea during his first term, and the way he's continued doing so in his second term. But I believe that this war will get ended under President Trump. I don't know if it will end next week, next month, or next year, but I believe it will end under him. It will be interesting to see what happens with the war in Ukraine, how it does end up ending, and what consolidations are made, because right now both sides are in a stalemate, because Ukraine is of the perspective that they want to keep Crimea and their surrounding land, and Russia's like, no, we absolutely want Crimea. That's why we're in this whole war to begin with. So figuring out how that's going to get split up is going to be kind of the tipping point of what ends up happening with this whole war. So we'll keep you updated on that. That was just a quick story that I saw. There are talks that are happening right now, which is more than I can say the Biden administration was doing. I mean, we had 4 years of Joe Biden. The war continued to go on without any change. We just shipped over money and supplies to Ukraine, and apparently a lot of it was lost. So we'll see what happens with all that. So our last story of today comes out of the White House. So the White House published a briefing that is all about President Trump's promises and promises kept on border security within the first 100 days. So this is all about border security and speaking about how this has totally shut down the U.S. border and kept us more safe. First off, the White House website is beautifully designed. I don't know who they brought in to revamp the whole White House website. It looks great. I love the font that they're using. This is not even like for like, props to Trump or anything. I just think it looks great. So since President Donald J. Trump took office, he and his administration have ushered in the most secure border in modern American history. And he didn't need legislation to do it. President Trump has made good on the promises he made on the campaign trail to usher in an unprecedented era of homeland security. That's great about this, and you can go read it for yourself. They give links to everything. And they also say exactly what he said he was going to do and then how he actually did. So, promise made, quote, "We will close the border. We will stop the invasion of illegals into our country." So this was on October 12th, 2024, Aurora, Colorado. Promise kept. Illegal border encounters are down 95%. Illegal immigrant gotaways, the top threat to public safety, are down 99%. And a whole bunch of other sources down here talking about it. And you can go read all those if you'd like to. Link is in the description. All right. Promise made. We will expel every single legal alien gang member and migrant criminal operating on U.S. soil and remove the savage gang Tren de Alagra from the United States. President Trump designated Tren de Alagra, MS-13, and other various gangs and cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. Department of Justice, 27 members or associates of Tren de Alagra charged with racketeering, narcotics, sex trafficking, robbery, and firearms offenses. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, quote, "Under President Trump, we have arrested over 150,000 aliens, including more than 600 members of various Tren de Alagra gangs." A whole bunch of other things. All right, so promise made. Next one. On day one, we will bring the largest deportation operation in the history of our country. Trump's mass deportation raids resulted in 655% spike in arrests of terrorists roaming U.S., including one of India's most wanted. Since President Trump took office, there have been 139,000 deportations. Promise made. I will immediately end the Biden border nightmare that traffickers are using to exploit vulnerable women and children. Promise kept. The number of unoccupied illegal immigrant children has reached record lows. At its peak under Biden, 4.6% of illegal border crossings were unaccompanied minors. Now it is just 0.4% of illegal crossings were unaccompanied minors. Under my leadership, we will seal it up, expand the wall until we have total control. Promise kept. More than 85 miles of new border barrier are already in various stages of construction and planning. Promise made. I will ban all welfare and federal benefits for illegals, and they won't want to come. President Trump signed an executive order to ensure taxpayer resources are not used to incentivize or support illegal immigration. The Trump administration ended food stamps on illegal immigrants. The Trump administration clawed back tens of millions of dollars paid to house illegal aliens in luxury New York City hotels and ended a $40 million contract to improve inclusion of sedentary migrants. And the Department of Education revoked waivers that allowed certain colleges to divert federal funds intended for lower-income students and students with disabilities to illegal immigrants. Promise made. I will end catch and release. That promise was kept. He ended catch and release. Promise made. My administration will deliver justice for every family whose loved one has been stolen from them by a migrant crime. Promise kept. Trump signed the Lake and Riley Act into law as his first legislative victory. Promise made. Kamala's app for illegals will be shut down immediately within 24 hours. Promise kept. Trump shuts down immigration app, dashing migrants' hopes of entering the U.S. Promise made. Today I'm announcing a new plan to end all sanctuary cities in North Carolina. Promise kept. Fresh executive order targets sanctuary cities. Federal aid for undocumented migrants. So this is great. I had no doubt that of any of the issues that Trump was campaigning on, the border was the biggest one that he was going to shut down immediately. And he's done just that. So this is great. Promises made, promises kept. So this is exactly what I voted for. This is fantastic. I'm very happy to see this. I'm excited to see the page that comes out for promises made, promises kept for egg prices, gas prices, the economy, getting cost of goods down, housing costs going down, all those. Hopefully you get one of those at some point. But this is a step in the right direction. This is more than the Biden administration did 4 years of being in office, and Trump has only been in office for not even 100 days now. And he's already done all this. So the administration is working very fast. I'm happy to see all the things they're doing. And now I think it's time to focus a little bit more time on, hey, maybe let's help out the consumers a little bit on lower prices of things just across the board. So we'll see how all that goes. So that's always been my biggest criticism right now with the administration is I'm not hearing enough about how prices are actually going to go down and, all that. But we'll see how that goes. So that's all I got today. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back here on Wednesday to see you all again. We'll be back here on Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern time once again to talk more about world news, American politics, and of course the Canadian elections that are coming up. Like I said, if you're a Canadian, go out and vote conservative. Do it now. Do it today. Go stand in that line if you have to. Every single vote matters. But with that, that's all I got to say for today. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to our channel, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, X, Instagram, all the platforms we're on. And with that, I've been Nathan Hale. This has been Spin Cycle Live. We will see you all back here again on Wednesday. I will see you then. Peace out.